Let's start with something I hear about all the time, and maybe it's happening to you too, even if you haven't said it out loud yet. You wake up once, maybe twice, maybe even more during the night just to use the bathroom, and by morning you feel like you've barely slept at all. It might seem harmless at first, something you just accept as part of getting older, but it's actually one of the most common signs that your prostate might be enlarged. What happens is that as the prostate grows, it can press on the urethra. That's the tube that carries urine out of your body, and your bladder ends up doing extra work to push urine through. That extra effort leads to more urgency, especially at night, when your bladder is trying to stay quiet so you can sleep. But when it can't fully empty or feels like it's under pressure, it wakes you up again and again. If this sounds familiar, please know that you're not the only one going through it, and it's not something you just have to live with. I remember one of my first patients who opened my eyes to how deeply this problem can affect daily life. Robert, a retired teacher from a small town in Ohio, was 72 when he came to see me. He didn't come in for urinary issues. He actually came in because he was exhausted and had started skipping his morning walks, which he'd been doing for years. When we sat down and talked, it turned out he'd been waking up to use the bathroom 4 or 5 times a night. I just figured it was my age, he told me. But when I asked him how long it had been going on, he said quietly, almost 2 years. What struck me was how he'd adapted to it, putting rugs in the hallway to avoid slipping, turning on soft nightlights, even keeping a towel near the bed in case he couldn't make it in time. But it wasn't until it started affecting his mood, his energy, and even his relationship with his wife, who had moved to the guest room just to get some sleep, that he decided to bring it up. We ran a simple checkup, discussed a few lifestyle adjustments, and made a plan that included some mild supplements and small evening routine changes. Within a few weeks, he was down to just 1 bathroom trip per night, and after a month, he told me he was sleeping better than he had in years. More importantly, he felt like himself again, and stories like Robert's aren't rare. I've heard the same kind of thing from so many men. From Harold in Florida, who stopped traveling because of hotel bathroom anxiety, to Michael in Oregon, who thought his nighttime trips were just a hydration issue. Each one had brushed it off until it started interfering with the parts of life they valued most. What often helps, and it's something I recommend all the time, is simply starting with awareness. Keep a little notepad by your bed and track how many times you get up at night to urinate. Do that for a week. If it's more than twice a night regularly, that's a clear sign to bring it up with your doctor. Also, try limiting fluids for 2 hours before bedtime, especially coffee, tea, or alcohol, which can irritate the bladder. Make sure your bedroom path is safe and clear too, because the last thing you want is a fall in the middle of the night. It sounds simple, but small steps like these can make a big difference in how well you sleep and how secure you feel in your own home. I'll leave you with this. Sleep isn't a luxury, it's a form of healing. And your body still wants to help you even now. When something interrupts that rhythm, it's not about weakness or age. It's your body gently tapping you on the shoulder, saying, pay attention. And if you do, it will thank you. You don't have to power through your nights. You can rest again, and you deserve to. Another thing I often ask my older male patients is something most guys don't like talking about, but once we bring it up, they realize they've been noticing it for a while. If your urine stream feels weaker than it used to be, maybe it starts and stops or it takes longer to finish, that's not just part of aging, and it's not something to ignore. What's usually happening is that the prostate, as it gets larger, presses on the urethra, which narrows the path your urine needs to travel. This narrowing makes your bladder work harder to get everything out, and over time, that extra effort can cause fatigue in the bladder muscles, which only makes things worse. It's something that usually creeps in gradually, so you might not even notice how much you're compensating until it starts interfering with your daily life, taking longer in the bathroom, avoiding going out, or just feeling frustrated and embarrassed. The good news is that when you understand what's going on, there are steps you can take, starting small, to relieve some of that pressure and take care of yourself in a way that's smart, not stressful. One story that sticks with me is from James, a 68-year-old retired contractor from Tucson, Arizona. He told me, half joking at first, that he'd started carrying a newspaper into the bathroom just to pass the time. When I asked why, he said it had started taking him 5 to 7 minutes just to feel like he was done, especially in the mornings. His wife noticed it before he did. They'd be late leaving the house because he had to go again, and at restaurants or airports, she'd catch him glancing nervously at the location of the nearest restroom. At first, James laughed it off, saying it was just part of getting older, but when it started affecting his confidence, especially in public, he realized it was more than a nuisance. I also remember another patient, Walter, 73, from upstate New York, who said he'd begun avoiding visits with friends or long drives because he couldn't predict how long he'd need in the bathroom. When we talked through the symptoms, both men realized they'd fallen into patterns that kept them from doing what they loved, all because they thought it was too small of an issue to bother with. But once they understood that it was their prostate narrowing the urethra and not some kind of personal failure, they felt relief. That shift in mindset made a big difference. Both of them were able to make practical changes, from sitting down to urinate to adjusting their habits, and over time they felt more in control again. One of the simplest things that often helps is changing your position when you urinate. I tell a lot of my patients, especially those with a weaker stream, to try sitting down instead of standing. It helps relax your pelvic muscles and gives your bladder a better angle to do its job. Another small trick is to take a deep breath. Before starting, then exhale slowly as you go. This prevents you from straining, which can actually make things worse. These changes might feel unusual at first, especially if you've always done things a certain way, but they can take some of the pressure off both physically and mentally. And if you're noticing a pattern that's getting worse, like more frequent stops and starts, that's a good reason to check in with your doctor. You don't need to wait for something serious to ask for help. Here's what I always say. This isn't about losing control. It's about reclaiming comfort and confidence. You're not less of a man for taking care of something your body is asking you to notice. Imagine trying to drive a car on a road that's gradually narrowing. You wouldn't just press harder on the gas, you'd find a safer way through. Your body deserves the same kind of respect. Even small changes can open up space in your day for more peace, more freedom, and less worry. You're not giving in, you're stepping forward, and you deserve to feel proud of that. Let me share another sign that often sneaks up on people, and it's something that can feel frustrating, even a little frightening when it starts happening more often. I'm talking about those sudden, strong urges to urinate, the kind that seem to come out of nowhere, even when your bladder doesn't feel full. For many older adults, this becomes a real source of stress, especially if you've ever had to rush to a bathroom or worse, didn't make it in time. The root cause often lies in an enlarged prostate, which can press against the bladder and urethra in a way that confuses your body's normal signaling. It tricks your brain into thinking, I need to go, right now, when in fact your bladder might only be partially full. That urgency can make outings feel risky and cause you to limit your lifestyle without even realizing it. If that's something you've started experiencing, know this. It's not your fault, it's not a weakness, and there are ways to manage it with a lot more control than you might think. I remember one of my longtime patients, Harold, who really helped me understand just how deeply this issue can affect someone's confidence. Harold is 74, a widower from a small town in Michigan, and one of the most active people I know, or at least he used to be. He told me during a checkup that he'd stopped taking his morning walks, which had been his favorite part of the day for years. When I asked him why, he looked down for a moment, then said, I almost had an accident in the grocery store last week. I just couldn't hold it. That one experience had shaken him so much that he started avoiding long outings, even with his neighbor's dog, who he used to walk every morning without fail. We talked through his symptoms, and sure enough, he'd been having more sudden urges and shorter times between bathroom trips, even though he wasn't drinking more water. The first thing I did was explain what was likely happening, that his prostate was putting pressure on his bladder, sending those urgent signals before they were truly necessary. We worked together to create a new plan that didn't rely on just waiting it out. I introduced him to some pelvic floor exercises, which are simple movements that help strengthen the muscles that control urination. He was skeptical at first, but he stuck with it. After a few weeks, the change was noticeable. He told me, I still get the urge sometimes, but I don't panic like I used to. I feel like I have control again. Not long after, he was back to walking his usual route, and now he even leads a small group of neighbors who've turned it into a daily walk and chat routine. It's small, but it's meaningful, and it all started with understanding the cause and taking back just a little control at a time. What often helps in these situations is practicing simple pelvic floor exercises. One of the easiest ways to begin is to try stopping your urine stream mid-flow once a day when you're already using the bathroom. Hold it for a few seconds, then let it resume. This exercise helps you activate the same muscles that control the flow when you're not near a toilet. You can also practice tightening those muscles while sitting or lying down. Just don't hold your breath or tense your stomach. Do a few gentle repetitions each day, and you'll start building the whole kind of muscle memory that can make those sudden urges less overwhelming. It's like training any other part of the body, slow, steady, and consistent. And of course, plan ahead when leaving home. Know where the bathrooms are and avoid bladder irritants like caffeine or acidic drinks right before going out. I want you to remember this. Regaining control over your bladder isn't about turning Back time, it's about moving forward with confidence. Your body is still capable of learning and adjusting. You're not stuck, you're not broken, and you're certainly not alone. Think of your bladder like a car with a touchy gas pedal. You just need to adjust your foot and learn how to ease into the drive again. It's not a big leap, it's a series of small steps, and every step counts. Here's another sign that's easy to overlook, but can slowly start affecting your quality of life without you even realizing it. It's that constant feeling like you didn't quite finish when you went to the bathroom, like your bladder's still holding something, even though you just went. For a lot of men, especially past their 60s, this becomes such a regular part of the day that they stop questioning it. But what's really going on is often tied to the prostate. As it gets larger with age, the prostate can press on the urethra, or bladder outlet, making it harder for your bladder to empty completely. That pressure tricks your body into thinking there's more to release, which leaves you feeling like you're never really done. You might end up going back and forth from the bathroom, or planning your outings based on restroom access. I've seen how this starts off as a minor inconvenience and turns into a pattern that wears you down. And I want you to know, it's not something you just have to live with. I remember Frank, a 69-year-old retired mechanic from a small town in Texas, who came to me because he was feeling tired all the time and couldn't figure out why. At first, we talked about sleep and diet, but when I asked him to walk me through his day, he mentioned, almost like it was nothing, that he was using the bathroom 12 to 15 times daily and still felt like he had to go again minutes later. He'd even started setting alarms during the night to check if he needed to empty his bladder again, just in case. I asked him if he was in pain, and he said no, just annoyed. "It's not hurting me," he said, "just bugging the hell out of me." What he didn't realize was how much it had started to affect his mood, his energy, and even his social life. He turned down fishing trips and stopped going to church every Sunday because the pews were uncomfortable to sit in with that constant pressure feeling. When we finally did a full checkup, it confirmed what I suspected. His prostate was enlarged and pressing against the bladder, leaving residual urine every time he went. We talked through a few manageable steps, starting with a change in routine, some medication, and a basic awareness of his patterns. Within a few weeks, Frank reported that things felt lighter, not perfect, but significantly better. He wasn't glued to the bathroom anymore, and that alone made him feel more in control. What mattered most to him was that he could sit through a full movie with his grandson without squirming, and for him that was the win that made everything else worth it. One of the easiest and most practical things I've seen help with this exact issue is something called double voiding. After you go to the bathroom, don't rush to leave right away. Stay seated or standing for about 30 more seconds, relax your muscles again, and try one more time. That second effort often helps the bladder release what's still there, giving you that complete finished feeling you've probably been missing. It's simple, doesn't require any special equipment or treatment, and can be added to your daily routine starting today. I also recommend keeping track of how often you feel the need to return to the bathroom shortly after finishing. This gives your doctor clearer information to work with if the problem continues. And if you're waking up in the night to go again right after you just went, that's also something to take note of. Just remember, your comfort matters. Feeling like you always need to go, even when you've just been, isn't something you need to brush off or silently adjust to. You deserve ease. You deserve freedom in your day, not to be tethered to a bathroom schedule that controls how you live. Think of it like carrying a heavy backpack all day. It might not hurt, but it wears you out over time. The moment you put it down, you feel the difference. That's what small changes like this can give you, the space to feel like yourself again. You're not asking for too much. You're simply giving your body the attention it's been quietly asking for. Let me bring up something that might feel uncomfortable to talk about, but it's far too important to ignore. If you ever notice blood in your urine, even a faint pink color in the toilet bowl, or if you feel pain or burning when you urinate, it's not something to brush off. I know how tempting it is to say it'll go away, or to tell yourself it's from something you ate or drank, but the truth is, these are warning signs that need your attention. In older men, blood in the urine can be a sign of inflammation, infection, or something more serious, including prostate issues that are starting to interfere with your urinary tract. Sometimes the blood is painless, which makes it easy to ignore, but that doesn't make it less serious. Your body isn't trying to scare you, it's trying to get your attention. And in this case, listening sooner rather than later can make all the difference in the world. I'll never forget a patient named Paul, who was 76 and living just outside Tampa, Florida. He came into my office not because of the blood. In fact, he didn't even plan to mention it. We were doing a routine checkup, just something his daughter had insisted on after he'd seemed a little more tired than usual. While we were talking, I asked him the usual questions about his appetite, energy, and bathroom habits. That's when he paused and said, "Well, there was this one thing, but it's probably nothing." He explained that a few mornings earlier, he'd noticed the water in the toilet looked a little pink. It had happened twice, but because there was no pain, he figured it wasn't worth bringing up. His daughter was sitting beside him and gave him a look, the kind only daughters can give, and said, "Dad, that's exactly why I wanted you to come in." We ran a few quick tests and sent him for a scan. What we found was early-stage prostate inflammation that had caused some minor bleeding, nothing life-threatening, that could have become much more serious if left unchecked. With treatment, including medication and a few lifestyle changes, Paul felt better in just a few weeks. More than anything, though, he felt relief, not just physical but emotional. He told me, "I didn't realize how much it was weighing on me, wondering what it might be. Once I knew, I could deal with it." One of the most important habits you can build, especially as you age, is to take changes in your body seriously, and that includes what you see in the toilet. If you notice blood even once, don't wait to see if it happens again. Call your doctor, explain what you saw, and let them guide you from there. And if you feel pain or burning when urinating, that's also something to bring up immediately. Don't try to self-diagnose with cranberry juice or assume it's just a bladder infection. The earlier you catch the cause, the simpler the solution often is. It might be something small, or it might be the kind of thing that you'll be glad you didn't ignore. Here's what I want you to remember. Paying attention to your health isn't about being dramatic, it's about being wise. After all the years you've spent taking care of others, building a life, showing up when people needed you, you've earned the right to take your body's signals seriously. Think of it like a dashboard warning light in your car. You don't wait for the engine to fail before you check it. You pull over, take a look, and make sure you're okay to keep driving. That's what this is. A moment to pause, check in, and make sure everything's working the way it should. You're not being a burden, you're being responsible. And that small step might just protect the next chapter of your life, the part where you keep doing what you love without fear hanging in the background. If any of these signs felt familiar, don't wait. Write down what stood out and talk to your doctor. Even one small step can change everything. Leave a comment. What did you learn? Which tip was most helpful to you or someone you love? And if this video helped, subscribe and tap the bell. We'll keep sharing clear, gentle tips to help you feel confident in your body again. Remember, you're not alone. You're stronger than you think, and life still has so much to offer if you just keep holding it by the hand.